On the second page here, we are looking at this statement up here. It says, I can use the area and circumference formulas and then multiply by a fraction to calculate a sector or arc length. So the area of a sector or the length of an arc is part of the circumference or part of the area. So let's practice the first one with area of a sector. We see here that we have a circle where our radius is equal to 8. So radius is equal to 8. And I need to find the area of the circle. So I'm going to start out by finding the area. So area is equal to pi r squared. And I see that that is going to be pi times 8 squared, which is going to be 8 squared is 64. So my area is 64 pi. And I'm going to leave it with that pi symbol. I'm not going to multiply that in my calculator again. Now, that's not the answer to the problem. That is the area of the whole circle. I only want this region right here that is represented by 135 of the 360 degrees. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my fraction here, 135 of the 360, so that number is less than 1, that's a decimal. I'm going to multiply it by 64 pi. Now when you're plugging that into your calculator, you're not going to plug in the pi, you're just going to do 135 times 64 divided by 360. So if I do that here, 135, and I'm doing this on my calculator off screen, times 64 divided by 360, so you should do this along with me, you're going to get 24. Then you have to remember to bring along the pi. In the same way that 2 times 3x is 6x, you take 2 times 3 and then you just bring the x along. Same kind of idea here. 24 pi is the area that represents this shaded region. 64 pi is the whole circle. We look at our answer and it makes sense. It should be smaller than what we had before. Next one we're going to do is number 22. We are finding the length of the arc here. So whenever we're finding a distance around the outside of the circle, we want to start with the circumference. We're going to find the entire pathway around the circle, and that is equal to 2 pi r. I'm using 2 pi r instead of pi d because I'm given the radius of 11. So my circumference equals 2 times pi times 11, and I know that 2 times 11 is 22. So 22 pi, leaving the pi symbol. Now I need to figure out what is this fraction, 315 of the 360. So it's going to be almost 22 pi, but not quite. So if I take my 315 over 360, my fraction of the circle that I have, times the circumference I calculated, again, that's not an area, it's a circumference because it's distance around. In my calculator, off screen again, I'm going to type in 315 times 22 and divide that by 360. And I'm going to get 19.25 and then pi. If you wanted to write it as a fraction, you could write it as 77/4 pi, and that would also be correct. So either of these would be acceptable. They are both considered exact answers. Good luck with your area for sectors and your arc lengths.